Hey everyone, today we're taking a look at a keyboard by Epomaker. Okay, so we have here the Epomaker SK71. It is somewhere between like a micro and a mini sized keyboard. It's 71 because I believe there are 71 keys on this keyboard. It is quite compact, but it has kept its numpad on the side here. So if the numpad is important for you, then this might be something that you can consider. So to begin, let's take a quick tour around the outside. Now, this is the kind of white version, I believe, white keycaps and the white body as well. The body or the casing at the bottom is actually plastic. So don't think it's aluminium or anything. This is just plastic all the way around. The USB-C port is here. Now this is the SK71, that means this is the wired only keyboard. If you want Bluetooth or any wireless functionality, look for the S model. So there is a SK71S, which does have Bluetooth. On the bottom, again, this is plastic as well, and of course it's made in China. And it has 4 feet here, they're rubberized feet, and you can't raise them. So there's nothing that flips up that raises them. Now this keyboard comes with the blue Gateron or Gateron switches, so they're not the Cherry or whatever MX switches. These are like the cheaper alternatives. So this is kind of what it sounds like. They're quite clicky. I'll do a proper sound test later, and they are optical switches. So what that means is it actually breaks a beam of light when you press the switch to activate the key press. So technically it should be faster and lower response time, but is it humanly perceptible or perceivable? I'm not quite sure. Now by default, it comes in the Windows layout, so you see the Windows key here, but they do give you a couple of replacement keycaps here. So there is the option button that the Mac users use, and then the command button as well. So you can swap these two, so you can take them out and then put the command button here and the option button there, and then this will work on a Mac much easier. And this is a wired keyboard. So in the box, they give you a nice braided USB-C to A cable. And to get it powered on, basically you have to plug it in. So on the top left corner is the USB-C port, so we just pop this in, and as you plug it in, the keyboard comes to life. It does a really interesting animation where it lights up the keys from top to bottom, and then it goes into its RGB mode here, like so. And once it's plugged in, basically the keyboard is set up, and you can basically start typing. Now, of course, the keyboard comes with different lighting, patterns and so on. So just to demonstrate a little bit, to turn them off, you just press FN backspace and the whole light turns off. To turn them back on, obviously you toggle that again. Now over here, the O and P button, you see there's a little light symbol underneath there. So these are for the 2 different lighting patterns. I believe the O is for the entire keyboard. So if you press FN and tap this, it will change the pattern for the entire keyboard. So let's dim the lights a little bit so that we can see the colors a bit better. All right, so there we go. If I press FN again, it will change to this color scheme here, and then again into this. This is a white backlight, so this version, it doesn't change. It looks kind of blue to my eye, but I believe this is what a completely white keyboard would look like. If you press again, it will cycle for the colors, but the entire keyboard is consistent to the colors. And finally, this is kind of back to the beginning where it cycles through it in rainbow. So on the P button, if you press this, this is individual keys. So now that it's in this individual key mode, each one you press lights up like so, and then cycle it again. This time it's like a row. So if you press this one, the entire row will just light up like so on. And here it's kind of like a wave, and there you go. And this one, I'm not sure how to describe this, but it seems to like, when you press it, it just flashes briefly on the keyboard there. And now we're back to the single key one. So apart from changing the pattern and the different colors on the keyboard, you can also change the brightness. So to do this, it's just the up and down arrows. So press FN and down, it will decrease the keyboard light slowly until it reaches nothing. And then it actually flashes here to tell you that you've reached the bottom and you can't go any lower. So again, if you want to increase them, you press the FN and the up arrow, it keeps going up. And eventually when it reaches the max brightness, the up key flashes as well. So if you tap that, it will actually blink to tell you that you've reached the maximum brightness. Now, build quality wise, yes, it is completely plastic construction. The base around the edges and everything is all plastic. The keycaps obviously is plastic. It looks like underneath here, the board underneath is also plastic. But having said that, it's still very sturdy. Like, it doesn't flex or anything. It's not creaking in my hands. It doesn't feel like I'm gonna crush it or fall apart. So that's fine. So even though it's plastic, it still feels very well built. And I have been typing on this for a couple of days now, and it feels completely fine to my touch. It doesn't feel like anything's gonna wobble or break. The keycaps are okay. I think they're ABS. So yeah, overall, just because it's plastic, it's still very well built. All right, so time for a sound test. I'm gonna put the mic just off camera underneath the keyboard. So there you go, you just saw it there. So I'm gonna put it there and then I'm just gonna do a quick sound test. So these are the Gateron Optical Blue switches. So let's see what they sound like. Alright, so for comparison, I have the Keychron K1 here. So this is the V4. It has the red switches. So the red switches, again, it's Gateron red switches. These are not optical, but they are meant to be the more silent keys. So let's compare that with this. So I have a Apple keyboard here. So this is like the chiclet style minimal flat keyboard that most people are used to. I'm gonna compare this sound as well so that you can have a good comparison. So again, I have a Microsoft Designer keyboard here. So again, it's a chiclet style, low profile keyboard that most people are probably familiar with. I'll do a sound test so you can compare that with the Epomaker up here. So I'll put the mic down here again, so we'll see how this sounds. Okay, so not a big surprise here. The Epomaker here, the SK71 with the blue optical Gateron switches or Gateron switches is the loudest. It's clicky, so that's why it's louder. So there's a very obvious click when the switch gets activated. Now comparing this with the Keychron, this is the red one, so they're meant to be silent. If I press lightly, there's almost no sound at all. Most of the sound from the Keychron is from your key actually hitting the bottom of the switch. So obviously if you press harder, you'll make that thock sound. That's because the key is actually hitting the end of the switch. But if you click really, if you type really softly, it's almost silent. So again, comparison here with the Epomaker here. Even if you press lightly, there's still a click. Obviously, if you press harder, there's a click and a thock because you are reaching the bottom of the keyboard. But if you press lightly, there's still that click. Okay, so I have used this for my day-to-day work for a while, and I've noticed a few things almost immediately. Firstly, this thing is very compact. So just to give you guys a size comparison, this here is the SK71. It has 71 keys, right? It also has the numpad, the 10 keys on the side here. Now the Keychron K1, this is a 10 keyless keyboard. So this technically has less keys, but look how much bigger it is. So the 10 numpad is here. This one has no numpad, and it's already bigger than the SK71 by Epomaker here. So to achieve this, they've basically crammed multiple functions into one key. So if you look down here, this area is very crowded. So if you look at the full stop button here, there's the right caret. So if you press, just press the button by itself, it's a full stop. If you press shift full stop, it's the right caret. Now, if you want to get to the slash or the question mark, you have to press FN full stop to get the slash. If you want to get the shift, it's FN shift full stop, and then that gives you a question mark. So it's good that they kept it compact, but it makes it quite hard to use because, question mark is something that you would type a lot. So to get the question mark, you suddenly have to press 3 different keys, FN, question mark, and shift before the question mark will actually get printed on the screen. The same thing is true for the semicolons, colons, and quotation marks up here. This can be a bit of a problem. Like if you code a lot, you might have some strings you need to put in quotation marks. Now suddenly, instead of having a dedicated key for a quotation mark, which on the Keychron, there is a dedicated key. And now most keyboards will have a dedicated key for quotation marks. Now they've actually crammed all that into one key. So semicolons are fine, if you're doing JavaScript, for example, semicolon, semicolon, it's fine. But when you want to put quotation marks, suddenly you have to press FN semicolon to get the single quote. If you want a double quote, you have to go FN shift semicolon to get the double quote. And I guess you'll get used to it, but as a learning curve, suddenly this keyboard layout is giving you, a harder learning curve. Now the big killer that I found for my day-to-day is if you use the terminal a lot, you'll find that you need the tilde button. Tilde, if you're not familiar, will send you home basically. So if you want to navigate back to your home directory, you just go tilde, enter, and it'll take you back to the home directory on any Linux-based OS, Mac OS included. So here on the top left, next to the 1 button is usually where the tilde and the backtick button is. Now that's completely gone, right? It has an escape button here. So at first I just didn't know how to do it. I thought tilde was missing, but it turns out it wasn't missing, it's just here. So they've repurposed the left caret button here, or the comma button, to also include tilde and the backtick. So again, you're doing that kind of key combo that you were doing with the question mark. So you have to press FN and this button here to get the backtick. And if you want the tilde, it's FN shift and then the comma button. So you're kind of doing, hand gymnastics a little bit. And also you have kind of repurposed your right hand to do tilde instead of just hitting the button to the left here on your left hand. So there is a bit of relearning the keyboard a little bit. So keep that in mind if you are considering this kind of compact style keyboard. You will be sacrificing some things for the compactness. The SK71 also does some pretty cool stuff. So for the caps lock key, there's no dedicated caps lock indicator, but they've repurposed the light on the caps button to indicate that it's on. So to demonstrate this, I'll just turn off the backlight. So as you can see, the caps key is lit up by itself. So that means caps lock is currently on. If you tap it, it'll turn off. So that's pretty cool. They just repurposed that one LED to indicate that caps lock is on. They've done a similar thing for numlock. So numlock is red right now. If you see the LED underneath, that means the numlock is on. Now, Epomaker also has some software which works with this keyboard, and it allows you to basically customize the lighting pattern. So you can change the lighting pattern to basically what you want, which is okay, which is great. It looks cool, but from a practical perspective, if you want to actually use this day to day, I feel like these crammed keys is a big deal breaker for me personally, but if you don't use these characters, then it could be fine. Also, you can remap the keys as well. So you can remap them and you can save them into memory. So these buttons here, there's a little 1, 2, and 3 underneath them, so WER. You can save them into the keyboard and then press FN and these combination here, and then quickly switch between the different saved layouts that you like. Now you could potentially remap some of these buttons so that the more usable or the more frequently used one is there. So instead of having a semicolon, for example, you could make this the quote button instead. However, I wasn't able to test the software because on their website the software is only available for Windows, and also I couldn't find one for the SK71. All the ones at the moment are SK6. Now, it's possible that it might work with SK71, but because it's Windows only, I wasn't able to test it. So this keyboard also supports macOS. So to basically switch these two keys around. So on Mac, the command button is next to the space bar. So if you switch to the Mac mode, basically these buttons get swapped and you can go ahead and flip the keycaps as well. Now to do that, you press Fn and then you press the E button. So I already have it in Mac mode right now. Holding Fn will tell you which modes are selected. So if I press E now it's back into Windows mode. So if I do it again, now it's Mac mode. Now that's all fine, these buttons all switch fine. There is one major problem that I noticed. When in Mac mode, the backspace button stops working. I have no idea why. I mean, maybe it's user error, but I just couldn't figure out why when it's in Mac mode, the backspace button stops deleting characters. I tried it on my Mac, I tried it on a Windows computer, I tried it on a Chromebook, and I even tried it on a Linux machine. And as long as it's in Mac mode, the backspace button just doesn't work for any of those machines. So basically, I would say this keyboard is only usable in Windows mode at the moment, unless they somehow update it. So yeah, so keep that in mind if you're looking for this keyboard. Okay, so final thoughts on this keyboard. Would I buy this? So Epomaker sent me this to check out. Personally, would I buy it? Probably not, mainly because I do some coding, I do type a lot of stuff every day, and these buttons here, these ones, I use quite a lot. The tilde button I use basically daily, the quotation marks daily, the question mark, I mean, even if you don't code or anything, the question mark is something that everyone uses. So unless you're willing to go into the software and then modify these keys to your liking, if you want to just work out of the box and just plug it in and play, this might not be what you're after. Also, the backspace button not working in Mac mode, that's a big killer. Now, if you are just using Windows primarily, that's completely fine. Windows, Chrome OS, or Linux, that's completely fine. But if you're a Mac user, I would say steer away from this. But overall, build quality wise, it's great. The colors are great. I've noticed that the LEDs aren't even PWM, so they're not pulse width modulated. So that means when you're filming this, the LEDs are not flashing at a frequency. So the LEDs in here are actually, they should be pretty high quality. So yeah, that's about it. So I hope this was useful and thanks for watching.